Hi everybody, Jim Ostrowski with the Liberty Moving Podcast. I normally don't broadcast at this time, so I'm walking around. It's late afternoon on Friday, and everybody's driving like a fucking maniac. So I have two responses to that. One, you never get between a Buffalonian and his fish fry. But the more serious comment is, I look at all these people racing around like crazy, and I'm thinking, like, do you people have any idea why you're in a hurry? Nah, they don't have a fucking clue. I do, because I study this shit for a living. Why is everybody rushing around late in the day, early in the day? Oh, I gotta get the kids to daycare. I gotta get the kids to government school. It starts at 6 a.m. because that's a convenient time for buses. It's horrible for kids, but I gotta get them there at 6. Did you ever question that? No, I never questioned that. I just accept everything the way it is because I'm a fucking moron. I'm sorry. I'm just a little on edge because I just spent like 6 hours filing a super complicated criminal appeal. Try that sometime. My clients don't have enough money to hire the appellate printer, so I'm the appellate printer. If they had to hire the appellate printer, it would have cost $6,000. I'd do it. I do it for free because I got sap written all over my face. So blow off a little steam today. So yeah, the reason why people are racing around is because we're all tax, inflation, and regulatory slaves for the left progressive state that we live under. Because progressives need a form of therapy. They need to have the government there to pretend to solve all of their problems. So everybody's driving around like crazy because they have no leisure time, because they're broke, because they don't have any money, because the government steals all their fucking money. Damn. Imagine if somebody like me, I won't even go there. I don't want to get banned from Facebook. So I want to talk about a subject. It should be pretty interesting. Is it hopeless? And, you know, the smart money is that it is hopeless. So let's make the case for it's hopeless, and then I'll offer a rebuttal. Hopefully it'd be more interesting than that non-debate the other day where Kamala wouldn't answer any questions. By the way, I just walked by one of her signs. We're not going back. So you know, vandalism is a terrible thing, but if people wanted to get a big magic marker, they could put, we're not going back in parentheses to liberty. People wouldn't understand the sign anyway, but I thought it was pretty funny. I'm not saying we had liberty under Donald Trump, because we of course did not have anything remotely like liberty for many, many years in this country, many, many decades, in fact. 110 years to be precise, 1913. So what's the case that it's hopeless and we should all just, I don't know, take care of our own situation and not bother with politics in any way, shape, or form? Well, I mean, you know, I believe voting is a waste of time. Supporting candidates is a waste of time, too. But is even direct action, is that a waste of time? So let's talk about the case for hopelessness in politics I'm talking about. I'm not a theologian, you know, and I'm not a poet or philosopher. Well, I am a philosopher in a sense. I'm talking about, is politics hopeless? So what's the case? The case that it is hopeless, and then we'll offer a rebuttal. I'm repeating myself. Well, it's late Friday afternoon. I'm tired. Government's been growing since 1776, steadily. Now, well, I shouldn't say steadily. It's a ratchet effect. There's periods where it doesn't grow, and then there's a crisis, and then it grows, and sometimes after the crisis is over, it shrinks a bit, but it's always bigger than it was before the crisis. That's Robert Higgs' crisis in Leviathan. He's actually a friend of mine. The last election that made government smaller was 1800. I've been saying this for years, and no one's really ever challenged me on this. 1800. Government's been growing particularly since 1913. The progressive era, the Fed, income tax, war on drugs leading to the entire federal bureaucracy, socialism, security, 1936. The government's attempt to destroy the family, it succeeded basically because the family is shit in the United States in 2024. You got parents living like, on the opposite coast. It's just a fucking mess. We don't raise our kids anymore. I gotta sneak across the street. I got a little break in the action. Uh-oh, I hope I don't get killed. Don't kill me. Okay, made it. Yeah, we don't raise our kids anymore. It's a fucking mess. The country's a mess. I mean, talk about pessimism. 40% of the people are overweight. We got a candidate who's she's running on slogans. Why is she running on slogans? Because slogans are for stupid people. If you like slogans, you're stupid. I mean, there's nothing. Slogans are fine. A slogan should be, if you have a complete program, and then it's a nice slogan, it's fun. But if you don't have a program at all, and you just have a fucking slogan like this moron running for president, that means that she thinks the voters are stupid. By the way, I'm on record disendorsing Kamala. I haven't endorsed anybody yet. Tough decision. I've never supported a major party candidate in my life. I'm tempted to this year, but I haven't. I'm not there yet. Seeing the movie On the Beach moved me in a certain direction. So the remake, both movies are great. The first one, Peck and Ava Gardner, outstanding. But the remake I love the remake. I really did. Armand Assani. I know I'm rambling. So, government, look at the lockdown. I mean, government exploded in size. It's, the debt is insane and nobody seems to care. The country's falling apart. Globalists are trying to basically destroy the country, to dilute the voting power of the last, semi-libertarian people on the planet. The world's not a very libertarian place. I pointed this out recently. We'll talk about the case for hope shortly. I pointed this out recently. There's only one country in the world that has the right to bear arms. Don't believe anybody to the contrary. I've checked it out. And there's only one country in the world that has a First Amendment. Well, obviously we're the only country with the First Amendment. There's only one country with free speech, and that's us. There's just not that many bright spots in the world. There are some countries that are resisting globalism. They're under vicious attack, legal attack. Poland, Hungary, not a long list. There's a couple others. So, are we just facing a situation where the government is just going to keep growing as it's been growing since 1776 until we basically have a totalitarian society, and then the only real solution is the government collapses, and then you're in some sort of a Mad Max scenario, and that's going to suck. I'm not really into that. Or are we just going to blow ourselves up with nuclear weapons? Well, I have a solution to that, but nobody's going to accept it, so I'll keep that. That's in a screenplay that if I live long enough, I'll get that out. Pretty wild screenplay idea. I'm going to pick it back up because of the movie I saw the other day, On the Beach. Brutal. So it seems like the smart money is that it's hopeless, but let me make the opposite case that it's not hopeless. So point one, I have cheat sheets today, which I normally don't have. Point one, all of the evidence shows, all the historical evidence economic theory and economic analysis, historical evidence. When you open your eyes, you see what's in front of your face, which is the ruling methodology of my work. Liberty works, and whatever, there's no good opposite of liberty, but the absence of, big government, let's just call it big government. There's really no good opposite term. We know that liberty works and big government doesn't work. The evidence is overwhelming. You look at North Korea, South Korea, East Germany, West Germany, United States versus the world. You look at the right to bear arms. We're the most successful country on earth, I think, in large part, not exclusively, due to the right to bear arms, the Second Amendment. I've made the case in my, books, like government schools. I haven't been able to convince people to stop using them. I haven't even been able to get the, whatever you want to call our movement, which is a fucking joke, to even promote my book. My book, by the way, which was written 13 years ago, chapter 1 is government schools are dangerous places. My God, don't send your kids there. I talk about school shootings. Nobody listened. But the evidence is there. The evidence, I destroyed government schools in the book, just like I destroyed progressivism. There's lots of other books out there, by the way, Mises, Rothbard, and so on. But so my point is that the argumentation, the facts, and the logic are there that show that liberty works, and the opposite of liberty, which is the government coercion, government violence, government force, absolutely does not work. And that's never going to change. In other words, you can't alter the evidence. You can lie about it. You can censor things, and they're doing that. They're doing all of the above. There's massive, look at the gun control movement, which is the subject of my latest book. A massive amount of sophisticated propaganda to convince people that gun control is a good idea when it's obviously not a good idea. But the evidence is there, and you're never going to be able to change the evidence and the facts. So that's point one. We still have some basic rights to maneuver in this toxic environment. We still have the right of free speech. They're cracking down on it. They're restricting it. They're conspiring to end it. They're colluding with private organizations, which should be illegal, to censor it and manipulate social media. But we still have the right of free speech, and I think Exhibit A is me. I mean, I'm pretty damn radical, and here I am. They're probably, let's face it. I mean, I don't have a big audience. I'm sure somebody's got their finger on the scale on that, but I can't prove it. So if I say that I'm being censored or whatever the proper word is, it's not exactly the right word. I'd sound like a conspiracy theorist, and I like to be fact-based. So I really should have a much bigger audience, but I don't. But I do have an audience. We do have free speech. In other words, this is my point. We still, I see a little coyote just up ahead. Don't see those too often. I'm not here at this time of day, but we still have the right to bear arms. Now, this is the most important right, because without that right, there is no First Amendment. We still have the right to bear arms, so we can resist tyranny. Oh, we got somebody who thinks I want to hear their music. Nice. Okay, and smell their cologne. Reminds me of that commercial. Who's wearing a cheap cologne? So, and we still have another right, which may be often neglected. We still have the right to vote with our feet. So we still have, we can still move to another state. We don't have internal passports like they did in the Soviet Union, they do in China, they did in Nazi Germany. And they probably still have them in a lot of countries, other countries I haven't mentioned. You can still move, which means that you can vote with your feet and not only vote for more liberty, but you can vote to live in a different area with like-minded people. so you can get strength in numbers if the shit hits the fan. Did some podcasts about that before. So those are very important rights that we still have. There's a little bit of space to maneuver. Our people are smarter. Like Elon Musk, Trump, with all of his flaws, Tucker Carlson, the people in the Liberty Movement, Tom Woods, Ron Paul. I just went to the conference. All the libertarian and fellow travelers. I mean, we're just way smarter than those people. The reason why they're political hacks is that they can't cut it in the marketplace. And so we are smarter than them. I mean, if you look at the people who run like the Buffalo political machine, they're not very bright people. I mean, it's all they do is politics, and it's kind of like rote memorization. What they do, it doesn't require much creativity. They really rule by a brute force in the sense of, like, you might have an independent candidate and you can get 5 or 10 people to volunteer, as happened when I ran myself against the machine. They had like 500 people all on the payroll. They had people, they brought people in from Albany, New York City, a guy from the Bronx, a lawyer from the Bronx worked on my street against me. So they're not very bright people. So we have that advantage. They are stupid. They're stupid, and we are not. We have way better intellectual capacity than they do. So that's a pretty big advantage. Pretty big advantage. Let's see what else we got here. So even though the trajectory is towards bigger government, and I think Trump's going to win this election, but let's assume that Trump loses the election. You got this numbskull who's going to try all these half-baked socialist ideas that, Obama tried to do some of them, but he was kind of hemmed in by a Republican Congress. But none of these things are going to work. And therefore, there's always, things go, I'm a big believer in cycle theory. I have no advanced theory of it, nor have I studied anybody else who does, but just give you a quick example. So let's say there's a lot of drug-related murders. The gangs are killing each other. Well, at a certain point, you would have wiped out a lot of the gang members, and therefore there's fewer people to kill. There's fewer people around to kill the other guys. So things do tend to go in cycles. The problem with that theory, I'm arguing against myself here, is that without the ideological awareness of what went wrong, we often keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And the Republican Party is completely useless. Bunch of dunderheads. The completely useless fucking party. So the bad guys get power, and their policies suck, and that creates problems, and then people clamor for, this isn't working, this really sucks. Kind of an analogy there is the fact that the Tea Party movement, which I was involved in briefly until I found out it was a fraud. It wasn't a fraud. It was taken over by the Republican Party. That's what happened. So I noticed a lot of the people were boomers at that time, younger boomers. We're talking 20 years ago. So what happens is that, and by the way, also when I went to the Trump rally in Buffalo in 2016, April, I looked around. I didn't pay much attention to Trump because I heard the speech about 50 times. I was studying the crowd. I was there as a journalist, and I wrote an article for ArtForce. And I noticed that people were about 40 to 60, 65, because once people get on socialism security, they're bought off and they drop out. In fact, it's interesting that boomers were Biden's strongest group. Shame on the fucking boomers. But my point is this, that you learn all this bullshit in high school and college. The government's great. The government's got to get bigger, and the solution, the cause of all problems is something in the private sector. The market's defective. People are defective. People are bad. Solution is the government, and you learn all that bullshit. But then, after 20, 30 years of being on the planet, you kind of see that everything you're taught in college is a bunch of bullshit. So these people can't make anything better. They can just grab power temporarily. So there's always that opportunity to strike back, politically, of course, when they fail, as they always fail. I pointed out in progressivism, I went through like 13 major progressive programs and showed how every single one of them has failed. Social Security is a failure. A lot of libertarians don't want to address Social Security. I address it all the time. It's a fucking failure. It bankrupts. Basically, all it does is impoverish working age people, so that the boomers, at this point, they're boomers. The greatest generation is mostly gone. Can sit around and hang out in diners all day long. It's like, what? That's a great. Don't take away my Social Security. Well, great. So every progressive program fails because all progressivism is the use of aggressive force. And I did a deep analytical dive on this in progressivism. Don't be scared by that description. It's very easy to understand. That anytime you have a scenario where some people are using force against others, it means that the victims of the force are worse off. And in many ways, I think even the people who are the perpetrators of the violence are worse off too, because they're not fulfilling themselves. Like political hacks, a lot of them are drunks. They know that they kind of sold their soul to, for a paycheck, and do stupid fucking jobs, and they're not fulfilling their potential. So I think I've said enough about that point. I think the internet, the internet, I mean, look at, without the internet, without the internet, my books wouldn't be out there. If it was pre-digital age, I wouldn't be able to get a distributor. So the information is out there. All of the analysis of what I'm talking about, the guy on a bike wearing a mask. What a fucking moron. The information is out there. Like, you can go to Mises.org and just educate yourself. You can read all my books. My books deal with all the major issues in systematic fashion. And then, there's means of communication that we can use to fight back. And I think it's not a great invention of mine that the internet is useful in resisting tyranny. And of course, they're trying to use it and censor it and control it and so on. And in some countries, they're like Brazil, obviously, has cracked down on Twitter. So it's like I've been saying for weeks now. No Second Amendment, no First. No Second Amendment, no First. So let's see what else we got in our checklist here. So I have a couple more minutes. So if you understand that my theory that politics is really a form of psychotherapy, because politics makes no rational sense, none of it makes a lick of sense. We're gonna, pass a minimum wage law. I mean, just use your common sense, people. I wrote articles about this years ago. So let me get this straight. A bunch of hack congressmen who went to law school or on the Republican side of the aisle were insurance brokers or real estate brokers, a couple farmers. They're going to write words on paper in Washington, right? Minimum wage law goes up. And that's going to make society wealthier? I mean, you got to be a fucking moron to believe that. And so if you just, if the point of progressivism is to make people feel better, and the point of leftism is to get revenge against, to make, basically leftism is unhappy people it's a complicated theory, and, you can read my book when it comes out. It's a form of therapy designed to make people feel better. So I'll leave it at that. There's other forms of therapy that I haven't written books on yet. But so it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's like, hey, I feel bad. Let's get the government to use some violence against people. What the fuck are you talking about? So my point is, excuse the language, the psychotherapy of politics is a dead end. It doesn't work. It doesn't make people feel better. Ultimately, it doesn't make unhappy people happy. It makes them unhappier. So, since the powerful ideologies that we're up against fail to fulfill their function in the needs of people, then there may be an opportunity to strike back at the right time and explain to people. It's like, has any of this shit worked for you? It's like I'm trying to explain, the Great Societies failed for 50 years. That's by the way why I have a little conspiracy theory about that, which is why was there this big, like, Whitey's bad thing going on around 2014? Because when you think about it, with Ferguson riots and all these phony baloney, this phony baloney notion that, and I sue cops for a living, by the way, but there's no empirical evidence that white cops, beat up and shoot black people because of racism. I'm sorry, there's no fucking evidence for that. In this modern era, that might have happened years ago. But why did they have to come up with that theory? Because the Great Society was an obvious failure by then. And people were starting to notice it. And so progressives need a scapegoat for the failure of their idiotic fucking policies. And so they started blaming white racism, stirring up evil race hatred for no good reason. Not that there's ever a good reason for race hatred. What they've done to the country is despicable. So, again, that was a digression, but using politics as a form of therapy instead of just, politics is this, at best, is this disagreeable task of just making sure we don't all kill each other and then we go on about our business. Maybe politics can do that. I don't even think it can do that. I believe in this. I'm an anti-anarchist. I think the whole thing is a bunch of bullshit. But we're not there yet because people need that form of therapy. You better have a government. Well, it's the fucking government. It's the main threat to your existence. I proved that in my recent book. But that's a future book I'm going to write. So, a couple more quick points. I'm running out of park space. So, it doesn't matter how grim the politics, it doesn't matter how grim the situation or how hopeless political action is. Direct action works. The nature of direct action is, we got a loud conversation here, so I'm going to walk in the grass. The nature of direct action is that you do stuff that's automatically good for you. So you move to a different state. You don't need anybody's permission, and it will improve your life. It will also stumbling over in the grass here, it will also tend to make society better off, and particularly if other people do it. But even if nobody did it, you're still better off by that. By voting with your health, you make society better off. True, but you have tangible benefits in your own life. So direct action works regardless of how grim the political situation is and how ridiculous and stupid political action is most of the time. So I'm going to wrap it up and just say that we need to be ready to take advantage of the idiotic policies that we suffer under and use direct action and voting with your feet and all these other mechanisms to fight for more liberty and acquire more liberty in our lives. So I think for all those reasons, I don't want to be red pilling people all the time, scaring people. I think my analysis is pretty accurate. The only book I outlined but didn't write was around 1990, and it was called The Decline of America and Why We Can't Stop It. I mean, anybody who doesn't think that we've been declining since 1990, you gotta be fucking kidding me. We've been declining since the 70s, mid-70s. Just bopping around town today. You see, I won't even talk about it because it's disturbing. You see all all the evidence of decline. So we're up against a lot of shit, but ultimately the people who favor liberty were right. All the evidence is on our side. We are smarter than the opponents. They have more guns and more money through the government than we do. And we still have free speech, right to bear arms. We still have the ability to engage in direct action. So I think I made the case that we do have hope. And I want to thank everybody for listening today. See y'all soon. Have a good weekend. Grab a fish fry. It's buffalo. Just don't kill anybody on the way to the fish fry.